Good evening mga 3 p.m. Narito po ako muli, si Peter Serrano, para sa Ano, Pilipinas? Attitude ba? An original program brought to you by 3 p.m. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Pilipinas muna. At narito po ako broadcasting from Legazpi City in Albay, Bicol. And I'm very thankful to our host for tonight, Macro Wagatni here, one of our executive producers. I'm doing something here that is quite challenging for me at the first time, but that is not what we're here to talk about. So, ito po mga nakaraang mga panahon, nakita natin ang nangyaring paglusob ng Russia sa Ukraine. And we have formed our opinions regarding the matter. And I don't know if we fully understand what we're talking about, or I have quite an understanding what is happening, but yung full grasp of what has really transpired, what triggered Russia to attack Ukraine is still quite vague to me. So tonight, we have invited a very, very prominent figure when it comes to geopolitics. We have learned so much from her when we watched the debate that happened in SMNI with the debates that happened, the presidential and the senatorial. And we somehow, nagkaroon tayo ng idea what geopolitics is, international relations, because napaka-extensive ng kaalaman ng ating panauhin ngayong gabi. At huwag na nating pahabain mga ka-3PM. Let's welcome sa Ano Pilipinas Attitude pa, Professor Clarita Carlos.
Hi, good evening, Peter.
Good evening, ma'am. We are very happy you're here with us once again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ma'am, kamusta ang life after the debates?
So.
You have become the new superstar of the social media.
Yeah, but it's not something I would really wish upon myself because it's very intrusive, Sometimes I'm just walking by or even eating and people would like to take a selfie with you, which I thought was very intrusive. I'm just not used to this kind of life. Yeah. I hope it will change.
I don't think it will change very soon, ma'am. So you have to bear with that kasi it's very sa akin ma'am ano maganda yung nangyayari sa inyo. I think we've had enough of the celebrities already. We have ano naman tayo medyo itaas naman natin ang ating kalidad sa pag-appreciate ng mga tao around us. Wag na tayo kasi for the longest time ang ginaganyan lang ma'am are the celebrities, the actors, the actresses. But I think this happened the only one but she's political. It's with Miriam Defensor Santiago that because I've seen her, ang mga tao nagagather talaga around her to take selfies. And I think after her, it is you na nangyari ito. Pero parang hindi ka masaya, ma'am. You find this very intrusive.
Um, yes. It's not anything. I'm not faking it, or it's like humble bragging. But yeah. Well, but you are correct that you are now putting science in your daily activities, and now you're paying attention to
Yes.
scholar scientists like us. Is, I think, a major
Yeah.
breakthrough, and I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good for the people and for the nation dahil unti-unti nang bumubukas ang aming mga mata, ma'am. Kasi which brings me to my first question to you. Um, Most of us, ma'am, kaming mga ordinary thinking people, have now opened our eyes and our minds to geopolitics, the importance of international relations. Pero syempre, ma'am, iba-iba kami ng interpretation dito. I mean, we see this in our own, pardon the word that I'm going to use, mga ka-3PM, in our own little way, nai-interpret namin siya kung paano namin naiintindihan na binabasa namin, naririnig namin sa mga kagaya ninyo, ma'am, na mga eksperto. Pero how should we take geopolitics that will enable us to see it in a more proper perspective, ma'am? How should we take it?
Actually, with great difficulty. See, the difference is that I've been swimming, and I'm soaked in this thing that I'm teaching for the past, I don't know, more than half a century.
Mhm.
So it's really unfair to demand of other professionals like you to be as equally soaked as I am. So I think that's the reason why there's division of labor among us. You're a journalist, I'm a scholar scientist, and therefore, we devote our whole professional life in the things that we really are interested in and are experts on. So, otherwise we can't be all over the place. I can't be a journalist, I cannot be a welder or a baker. Each one has his own contribution to developing our society.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, ma'am. Pero in your opinion, ma'am, and with your suggestion, I would want to get your suggestion. Paano namin ito, ma'am, mas makikita ng mas tama? Kasi nga, ma'am, we have different interpretations about geopolitics eh. Kasi nga, kumbaga, ngayon pa lang kami nagkakaroon ng kamalayan tungkol sa kanya. Sa inyo pong magiging suggestion sa amin, paano namin dapat ito balansehin o para mas makita naman namin ang medyo mas tama sa mata na nanggagaling sa mata ninyo na isang eksperto tungkol sa bagay na ito, ma'am?
Yeah, excellent question, Peter. The quick answer and the quick route to really understanding what is happening around us is to source your news from as many sources of different political colors. Do not listen to all the Western, narratives. You have to listen to Al Jazeera. You go to CGTN. You go to RT. You listen to Russia. You listen to they're all English. How would you call it? Where you have a subtitle if they are in their own language, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's the only way for you to be presented with an array of narratives, and it is up to you as an individual to make a determination which one am I going to subscribe to and cotton on because of the kinds of evidence conditions that are being presented to me. Will make the determination.
Wow. Wow. Medyo na ano ako doon, ma'am, kasi it is going to be up to me. Ako ang magdidesisyon kung paano ko tatanggapin ang mga narinig ko at paano ko siya ni-research. Ma'am, how am I supposed to know, given the amateurish know-how that I have right now, how am I supposed to know that I'm choosing the right one?
Well, again, with great difficulty, this is not for lazy people. Like, I'll give you an exaggerated example. Let us say if you are choosing between me and somebody selling maruya in the street, not to denigrate the one selling, I'm sure you will make a choice, isn't it? Well, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same. Yeah, it's the same when you are presented with an array of narratives. And here is Russia today, and here is Turkey today, and here is China today, and they have different take on a particular event. So this is
Mm-hmm.
where you, as a scholar, because all of us are really scholars, it's just that I devote my professional life towards a deeper and broader view of this. Will just make a determination which among these narratives am I going to accept because of the evidence conditions being presented to me. And the evidence
Mm-hmm.
conditions are documentary evidence. It's not anything, Peter, like you're going to question it because I'm presenting it to you. I'm telling you, Peter, you source this, basahin mo tong dokumento na to at tignan mo kung ano yung damdamin mo tungkol dito. The document itself doesn't have any value. You are reading it. You're an English speaker, you're an English reader, and you read what the document tells you. A document is an evidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, ma'am, you said that I could speak English, I could understand it, I could very well decipher what I would be encountering when I do my research. Ma'am, mas malaki po ang porsyento natin ngayon dito sa Pilipinas na medyo may degree of difficulty when it comes to understanding the English language and how it is being formed pagka nagbabasa tayo ng mga researches na nakikita natin sa gusto nating malaman sa geopolitics. Ma'am, sa inyo pong palagay, paano kaya natin ito mapapaintindi sa mga taong hindi kasing hindi wala dun sa level ng understanding natin when it comes to this matter? How do you think should we reach out to them, and what way would we make them understand these things that matter right now?
Well, two things. First, we lower the level of discourse. Like what I'll do in my graduate classes here in the UP and elsewhere would be a fairly high level of discourse because I'm dealing with PhD students, MA, PhD students. And I bring it down for purpose of like this interview, so that people who are not into political science, etc., and are not how do you call it, exposed to the kinds of documentary evidence that I am exposed to, will understand it on a fairly simple level. For example, suppose, Peter, I'm describing to you the balance of power or the balance of terror, which is an organizing mechanism to stitch together all this data flying about you. So there is some order, and you're not getting mentally ill because there's just too much, and you are overwhelmed by many stories. So I tell you, I show you the globe. Unfortunately, there's an aparador behind me, and we don't have a globe here. And I tell you that U.S. has carved out the Western Hemisphere and says, this is ours, Monroe Doctrine. So U.S. says, huwag ka mangialam dito ha, dahil ito backyard ko. Ang
Mm.
Europe meron siyang sphere of influence. Ang China meron din siyang sphere of influence. Ang Russia meron din, kanya-kanya silang sphere of influence. And it just so happens that Russia's sphere of influence includes Ukraine and Belarus. So hindi ba,
Mm.
kung meron tayong mapa o kaya mas maganda kung globe, para yung suha ba o whatever you can use as a metaphor, no? Hinati-hati mo sila at tayo pinaghahati-hatian tayo ng mga major powers. This is how you bring it down to the level of the understanding of people who are not as soaked or not swimming in the data that I am swimming in.
Mm. So, sa madaling sabi, ma'am, pinakikita dito, kumbaga sabi nyo nga parang isang buong suha, tapos eto sa Russia to, eto sa US to, eto sa China to. Ngayon, sa nakikita nating sitwasyon na nangyayari sa daigdig na yan, represented by our suha, nakikita natin sa mga portions na kinukuha natin sa suha kung papaano nagiging mas naiintindihan natin kung sino ang mas malakas. Ganun po yun, ma'am, hindi ba? At kung sa nakikita natin, kumbaga sa akin pong interpretation, ma'am, sa nakikita natin kung sino ang mas malakas at sino ang mas nakalalamang sa portion na kinukuha natin sa suha, ma'am, which brings me to this question. Doon ba tayo sa side sa mas malaking portion na nakuha, immediately ba mas tama yon? Kasi mas malaki yung portion ng suha na nakuha niya?
Well, kung mahal mo ang Amerika, siyempre ang tingin mo, ang Amerika nakadapa sa buong planet. Pati nga yung yung airspace dinapaan na niya sa kanyang strategic plan. And therefore, ang makikita natin ngayon, siguro ilapit natin sa Ukraine. Ang Russia, binakura na niya yung kanyang dating USSR, Union of Soviet Republics, of which Ukraine was one of the 15 Union Republics. So sabi niya, nakabakod na to ha, this is my sphere of influence. Ano ang ginawa ng Europe? Siyempre, ninidal-nidal nila itong Ukraine. And of course, according to our sources, they brought about the Maidan Revolution in 2014. So na-overthrow yung regime na yon friendly to Russia. And therefore, nakita ni Putin na binakuran ko na nga ito, no? Ngayon lumalampas ka na sa bakod ko. Binalaan na kita ilang beses, no? In fact, sinabi ko sa iyo, meron kayong Homeowners Association diyan, ang pangalan EU at NATO. Gusto ko naman sumali. Ayaw mo naman akong tanggapin, I am a European power. Of course, sinisimplify natin ito, Peter, but I'm not moving away from the real politics that is happening on the ground. But that's exactly what is happening right now.
So, nagkakaroon, ma'am, sa madaling salita, nagkakaroon ng pikunan. Napipikon ng Russia dahil pinipikon siya ng US. Dahil sila ginagawa ng US. Kasi ma'am, parang hindi nakikita ng marami as to the reactions I am seeing right now. Kasi po, nakikita ko, Russia is like this, Russia is bad, Russia is gano'n. They are powerful and yet eto binubuli niya ang Ukraine, ganyan. Pero hindi nakikita, ma'am, itong sinasabi ninyo na kumbaga yung bakod ko pinapasok mo without my permission. And this is my reaction. Tama po ba yung sinabi ko, ma'am?
Tama ka, Peter. Pero talagang how do you call it? Very high premium ang Ukraine bilang dating part ng USSR. Bakit kamo? Sapagkat nung nagkaroon ng Russian Revolution, si Lenin, di ba? Pinatay lahat ng Tsar. Siyempre may natira at may mga istorya. Remember Anastasia, etc. But that's a side story. Okay. Pinatay na lahat ng Tsar at nagkaroon ng tinatawag na Russian Revolution. At ang naging suma total nito, yung USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Ang dalawang original members nito, yung Belarus and Ukraine. That's why pag nadinig mo si Putin, sinasabi niya, the Ukrainian and Russian hearts beat as one heart. One language, one religion, one shared history. So, ang Ukraine hindi tulad ng Baltic states na, Lithuania, Estonia, no? Because they were just integrated into the USSR, but they did not have the shared history of Belarus and Ukraine. So, especially to kay Putin. So, nung nag-declare na ang Ukraine, nung nag-disintegrate ang USSR, ang ginawa ni Putin ay hinakot niya lahat ng kanyang mga nuclear equipment forces sa Ukraine kasi nandun yung Sebastopol. That's why Crimea is very, very important. Pag sayang wala tayong map dito, pero maganda talaga istorya. Yung Sebastopol, nandun lahat yung marine fleet ng USSR. So hindi mo po pwedeng pakawalan lang ang Ukraine na yun dahil nandun lahat ang puwersa ng military power ng USSR. Alam mo, pag hindi tayo nagbigay ng lugar sa kasaysayan, talagang ang tingin mo lang, Peter, magre-react ka lang dun sa nire-report sa'yo ngayon. Paano naman yung kasaysayan niyan, diba?
Okay. Ma'am, napakalalim ng history ng Russia, as you say, Belarus, Ukraine, as its history with Russia. And now, I am getting a deeper understanding of the whole picture of this, kasi this has been considered a world predicament, itong nangyari with Russia and Ukraine. The last time we spoke, ma'am, nung hindi pa nangyayari ang lusuban, I hope you remember our conversation the last time. I asked, ma'am, sabi ko, do you think that this will trigger World War III? And you told me that you don't think so that time. You said that you feel that it's just going to be a domestic issue between Russia and Ukraine. Now, ma'am, that the attack has happened already, do you still have the same opinion on that?
More so, more so.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you will notice, the US is not ready, especially with the warning given by Putin. Anyone who enters into this conflict, he just alerted his nuclear forces. And he's not mincing words, by the way. I'm sure Putin would easily just die with all of us, no? And you will notice Biden keeps on saying that Ukraine is not its core national interest, and Biden knows that it is only, moving in the periphery. In fact, it is egging Poland to receive some war equipment, and Poland is not willing to do that unless it is using the umbrella of the NATO, because Poland is also not a stupid country. And
Mm.
U.S. is niddling it, and of course, if you look at the map, Poland has a border with Ukraine, and that is the reason why millions of Ukrainians are pouring into Poland. So that means Biden is not willing to go into an all-out war, and that's the reason why they're doing everything possible so this conflict will encapsulate. Encapsulate is a term which means hindi siya mag-spill over, no?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Peter, hindi ako makaisip ng Tagalog na ano and
Hindi siya
magkakaguluhan
hindi siya
tayo dito.
kakalat, ma'am. Hindi siya
Yeah,
kakalat.
hindi siya kakalat, hindi siya mag-spill over sa language ng integration, ano? And therefore, what happened yesterday, hindi ba umatras si Zelensky? Sabi niya, okay
Mm.
na, hindi na ako mag-member ng NATO. Pero, hihingi siya ng guarantee sa tatlong powers, Turkey, Russia, and US, to guarantee her territorial integrity. And panalo both ito. Win-win to eh. Panalo si Zelensky, panalo din si Putin. Because yun lang naman ang gusto ni Putin eh. Because if you look at the military power of Russia, they could practically have nuked Ukraine out of this planet. But did you notice? They did not. They were
Mhm.
using
Mhm.
conventional warfare, etc. Not that, we are justifying this, a war
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always a loss for everybody. But yes, with the military might of Russia, this thing could have happened in 2 days. We're all gone. Ukraine is gone from the map, and we're all gone also because a
Yeah.
nuclear holocaust would have happened. But that is not the case. You will notice it's now in its ano na ba to? Parang third week na ba, Peter? No?
Parang third week
And
na po since the attack
yeah,
happened.
so the quick answer to your question is more so do I believe that it will not spill over and it will not escalate into more than what it is right now. And because they are doing several rounds of negotiation, I think now in Turkey, that there will be a ceasefire soon, and that there will be a way of managing this conflict. One of which is the guarantee of Turkey, Russia, and the U.S. of the territorial integrity of Ukraine. A great
Mm.
breakthrough.
Okay, that is good to know. That is good to understand that na hindi nga mag-spill over ang mga nangyayari. But given that Russia attacked Ukraine, and do you think, ma'am, other superpower nations will react the same way given how the world is accepting what happened between Ukraine and Russia? Na parang okay, kagaya po na sinabi niyo ma'am, hindi naman talaga acceptable ang war dahil war is always a lose-lose situation. Hindi naman siya talaga, we lose lives, we lose so many important landmarks kapag nangyayari ang giyera. Pero sa tingin niyo ba ma'am, will this trigger other superpower nations to let's say China will, attack the Philippines given that na parang meron tayong ganong yung ibang mga politiko natin parang ganon nila nakikita itong nangyayari. Yung mga superpowers po ba na feeling natin may pending attacks to some other smaller countries, you think this will trigger them?
I doubt very much. States do not plan for war. They stumble into it. Natisod eh. And
Mhm.
yung point na, parang yung kay Vladimir Putin na Ilang beses nyo na akong binatukan ng binatukan, okay na hindi na to po pwede. Sa Bucharest, ginawa nyo yan 2008. Sa Maidan, ginawa nyo yan 2014. Mahaba ito, Peter, hindi na natin enumerate ito, no?
Yeah,
Baka
yeah.
lalong magulahan ang mga ang audience mo. But
Mm-mm.
yes, I think China is watching, India is watching, no? And remember, these two big countries consisting ilang percentage ba sila ng total 7 billion natin, nakikita nila yung lesson dito. Why is India siding with USSR, with Russia? Satellite country siya dati ng USSR. No? Why is China not condemning? Does not even use the word invasion in so far as Ukraine is concerned? Because China has promised and used, several times. 2 weeks ago, when the Winter Olympics started and Putin was there, that they are strategic partners and there are no limits to their friendship. Not only that, they signed a 30-year agreement for Russia to supply China with its need for energy. Guys, if you if you sign a 30-year agreement, that means I won't be around for sure, which means that there must be the friendship really is so deep that you are signing a 30-year agreement, which is one generation, by the way. So
So, ma'am, ito, no, I don't know if we may call this attack on Ukraine. Will this have a positive effect bilang sa inyo, sa isang ekspertong katulad ninyo who's a political scientist? Will this attack of Russia to Ukraine, will this have a positive effect on sa mundo as a whole?
I don't see any pluses except if you are Vladimir Putin and his cohorts. There are
Okay.
always just minuses, And I think we are telegraphing to the major powers, you cannot slice the planet into your spheres of influence. It's about time you give everybody, Ukraine, Belarus, etc., a chance to self-determine. Tama na yung inyong spheres of influence, tama na yung sinasakop ninyo yung buong karagatan, because that is not the way to go. Ang enemy naman hindi tayo eh. Ang enemy natin yung climate change. Lahat tayo malulunod dyan, no? And therefore, unless these major powers stop all their real aggression in every part of our planet, then we will really have continuing problems. That is the reason why, the more rational among us, and I think they include, people like you, journalists, people like me, scholar scientists, we really are hankering for establishment of institutions
Yes.
that are moving towards cooperation rather than conflict. And
Yes.
we'd like to move towards that direction. Everybody wants to be comfortable, to be rich. Who wants to be poor and, to live under these conditions of war? Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. I really agree with you on that. Pero ito sa nangyayari, kasi nga, kagaya ng sinabi niyo sa simula, parang may namimikon at may napikon. So, yung napikon, ginawa niya lang yung dapat niyang gawin kasi parang binubuli siya eh. Ma'am, ito bang, saan ba nagmula ang animosity between USA, if you don't mind giving us a bit of history, saan po ba nagsimula itong animosity ng Russia at Amerika at nagkaganito ang relasyon ng dalawang bansa na yan?
Well, siguro, kalad ka rin kita uli sa history, no? But far
Yes,
back.
ma'am, please.
Siyempre, hindi ka pa buhay nun, Peter, nung Korean War. Nung World War II, ang enemy, of course, was the Tokyo-Berlin axis, yung pagsasanib puwersa ng Japan, ng Germany, no? At of course, alam mo na dahil sa paggamit ng atomic bomb, natalo ang Japan. Ang Russia noon ay kasanib ng tinatawag na Associated Allies ng Amerika. Magkasanib sila. Pero may nangyari sa isang parte ng planeta natin, ang pangalang Korea, na wag na tayo magpunta sa nitty-gritty, na ang sumatotal noon, na-involve ang Amerika, no? Na-involve ang China, At ang nangyari ay nag-divide sa 38 parallel what is now North Korea and South Korea. Diyan nag-umpisa ang Cold War. Kanya nagkaroon ng NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was the first fruit of the Cold War which started in the early 50s. Ang Warsaw, yung mga kaalyado ng Russia, at the time talagang naghiwalay na ang US at saka Russia, ay nag-form ng Warsaw Pact. So yung NATO was really a defense organization against the communist, so-called communist countries na Russia. And so the Cold War, went on and on until 1991 when the USSR unraveled and disintegrated and all the 15 Union republics became independent. One of them is Ukraine.
Okay.
Yun yung pinakamabilis siguro na telescoping history kung bakit nagkaroon ng hidwaan between the US and the the USSR. Kanya ewan ko kung natatandaan nyo yung inyong history sa elementary, yung Sputnik moment, no? Nauna talaga ang Russia because they really have the best scientists doon sa Sputnik. Talagang sila yung nauna dyan sa So ang sabi ni John Kennedy, yung presidente, hindi tayo pahuli ha. Tayo talagang mag-una dyan sa sa moon. 'Di ba? Talagang nilagay niya lahat ng resources ng Amerika para una sila sa moon in 1969. And up till this time, of course, there are other protagonists. Siyempre, nandiyan na yung China, nandiyan yung India, and US, of course, na naghahagaran sila at pinupuno nila ng satellites ang ating himpapawid. No? Mabuti nga, wala pa nagbubungguan dyan, Peter.
So, ma'am, ang hidwaan ng Amerika at ng Russia, kasi Russia had become a communist. Ideology lang ba, ma'am, ang naghiwalay sa kanila? Is this a difference of ideologies?
Yes.
Oh,
because
okay.
Ang ideology ng USSR is state controls the lives of the citizen. Ang ideology ng democracy to which we belong, kasi naging colony tayo ng US ng 50 years, tapos yung ating constitution ay kinopya-kopya natin sa kanila, ang ideology niya is freedom of the mind, freedom to speak, freedom to associate, na kontrang-kontra dun sa authoritarian structure ng so-called socialist governments. But that was before, Peter. Ngayon yung tinatawag na socialist countries, China and Russia, I am sure they are out and out capitalists. I have been to Moscow several times, no? Akala ko nung una kasi, siyempre may pagkatanga din ako na, yun, siyempre pinakita ng Western press na may backward, etc. Sus Mariosep. Alam mo, parang New York City ang Moscow. At kung ano na lang gusgusin yung dinala kong ko doon, na winter clothes ko doon, ang gaganda ng mga winter clothes niya. At ang gaganda ng mga Moscovites, no?
Oh my God.
And nako talaga, Peter, kung matapos na ito, pumunta ka sa sa Russia because lahat ng kanto doon is a tourist spot. I mean talaga, this is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Napakaganda ng Russia. Yeah.
Wow. I will really consider this, ma'am, that I would go to Russia. Ngayon, ma'am, kasi, eto kasi, dadali natin to sa kung paano lang namin nakikita mga ordinary thinking people, ito nakikita nating hidwaan ng Russia at US. For the longest time, since their rift, nung nangyari difference of ideologies, America has shown the world that Russia is really the kontrabida. We see it on the films na pag may espionage movie or in books, espionage book, Russia, I read on Robert Ludlum. I love his espionage book. In fact, he's the one who wrote para na sa kaalaman ng iba, The Born Identity. Siya yung sumulat nun, si Robert Ludlum. So, ma'am, paano ito tinatanggap ng Russia? Kasi wala naman ako naririnig or na statement ng Russia na kayo ang kontrabida, kayo ang masama, kayo ang kalaban ng daigdig, kayo ang demonyo, kami ang bida, kami ang mas tama, kami ang mga anghel. Ganun po nakikita natin na pinakikita ng mga pelikulang napapanood natin at ang mga literary works na nababasa natin. Ma'am, sa inyong palagay, does it even fall in the category of propriety? Itong ginagawa ng US, making the world believe that Russia is really the bad guy?
the evil empire, no? But
Yeah.
yes, but remember, tignan mo yung department ko, Peter. Except for Francisco Nomenzo, who went to Britain, no? And there was no one who went to Lumumba University in the Soviet Union then. All the rest of us went to American universities. What did we imbibe there? We imbibed the liberal democratic tradition. We came back to the Philippines. We taught them our political science in the UP is American political science. So, the language of international politics is American international politics. And so you see this in the movies and the songs, no? Talong-talo ang Russia kasi unang-una, merong language barrier. No, we don't. Very few of us speak Russian, lalo na yung kanilang alphabet. Iba silang sulat, di ba? O
Mm.
samantalang tayo, pagkapanganak natin, dalawa na agad ang salita natin, English and whatever. Hindi ba? Talaga tayo, and bilingual na agad tayo from birth, diba? Tagalog, English, or whichever. And
Mm.
therefore, talagang naka-skew yung ating buhay, our daily activities, our socialization, they are really skewed in favor of liberal democracy of the United States and fed by music, by like, can you name me a Russian a singer na napaka-famous sa kanila? No, you will mention Michael Jackson, di ba? And
Yeah.
even our music is American music. But Peter, na-discover ko yung pagpunta-punta ko doon at marami akong mga kaibigan ng mga Russians. Alam mo yung the Russians are really true blue lovers, no? It's not the French, it's the Russians really. Pakinggan mo yung kanilang mga love songs. Parehong-pareho ng love songs natin sa hagod, sa cadence. I mean, I'm not a music person, I'm using
Yeah.
layman's term, no? Pero I'm sure you know where I'm going.
Yes, yes,
Talagang,
ma'am.
kung ibig sabihin, you look at them kasi as human beings. They're not Russians. They're not. They are just human beings. When you stop looking at them as the epitome of an evil empire, then you change your mindset. And then, as I said, go
Ah,
back to what I suggested earlier. Expose yourself to an array of narratives. Huwag ka na lang dun sa mga Western-mediated media. And that's the best way really to be a true blue citizen of the world. Paano ka
mm.
maging citizen of the world? Parang citizen ka ng US. Diba?
So, ma'am, kayo, nakailan kayong punta sa Russia? Did you appreciate the country? You've seen the beauty of it. And I'm sure you have delved deeper into the culture of Russia kasi nakapunta ka doon and you somehow shared the food, shared the conversation, and shared so many things with the Russian people. How do you, sa mga nakita ninyo nung nandoon kayo sa Russia and appreciating its food, the taste of its food, the feel of its air, how did it make you see Russia, yung perception ninyo sa Russia, ma'am?
Well, Peter, kasi I've been teaching the government and politics of European powers, including Russia, including USSR, for so many, many years, for as long as I have been in the department. Therefore, I knew so much more about the USSR than most other people. And that makes it so easy for me to appreciate Russia when I visited there several times. No?
Mm.
And, the culture, I know I have a colleague here who is simply so blunt and would say that the Russians, they're so deep in their culture, in their history. The Americans, I don't know what you see in McDonald's. Ano sasabihin niya sa akin sa bakit ba palagi punta ka sa Amerika? Sabi ko, paano nandun ang pamilya ko? Wala naman sa Moscow, no? But yes, talagang Russia is steeped in history. If we can only, how would you call it, restructure our curriculum so that we have more stories of Russia, of Azerbaijan, of the Kazakhstan, etc. But you never hear this being taught in social
Yeah,
studies, di ba? Yeah.
So ma'am, kasi ako, Russia, narinig ko, Russia, pupunta ako sa Moscow. Nung mas bata ako, natatakot ako eh. Because of the things that I have seen, have heard about it, it somehow gave me fear to go to Russia and, just be a tourist. Feeling ko, makikidnap ako doon. Or somebody will just shoot me in the head. Because that was how it was presented, di ba ma'am? For the longest time, at least ako, ganun na naging reaction ko sa Russia. Parang kung ano ang nararamdaman ko sa North Korea, parang ganun na nararamdaman ko sa Russia. But of course, we all know that North Korea is a different story. But ganun yung naging perception, naging impression ko sa Russia. And now that you are telling me how Russians are and how Russia is, and then here comes Putin, this very, very, ang tinawag nga sa kanya ni President Duterte when President Duterte was interviewed about the conflict of Russia and US, sinabi niya, suicidal yan si Putin. And it was an interview in 2016, and he said, if you see them together, you will just see how they cannot stand each other, US and Russia. And I wouldn't be surprised, he said, if an attack will happen in the future. That's what President Duterte said in his interview in 2016, which made me quite more scared of Russia. And then here you are, ma'am, who's experienced the country and painting me a different picture. Now I'm excited to see Russia after the war, after this conflict ends. Ma'am, do you think this conflict with Russia,
Peter.
yeah, do you think, ma'am, this conflict with Russia and Ukraine, will this last long?
Given what we are seeing every day, plus the Zelensky now being more pragmatic and accepting the three-country guarantee, I think things will move very, very quickly. There will be a ceasefire. And by the way, Putin is not interested in reviving the USSR. He is interested in many discussions I had with my counterpart in Moscow. They're interested in creating a free trade area, an economic a common market, and a economic community a la EU. So it will be a block to block kind of relation. But yes, I think the Europeans will have to accept that Russia is a European power. Oh,
Okay.
Peter, ang Russia, ilan ba yung ating time zone? Di ba isa lang ang time sa Pilipinas? Ang Russia 11 ang time zone, nakadapa siya sa Europe and Asia. Oh, kanya nga ang Russia, makita mo ngayon, meron siyang, sinusundan ko kasi ito masugid eh. Meron siyang defense attaché for the first time here. Bakit ka mo? Kasi gusto niya ng status of forces agreement with the Philippines para they can train and exercise with us. Oh? They
Okay.
want to train with us. They want to
Is
be
that a good
with
thing, ma'am? Is that a good thing for us?
Oh, yeah. Let us exercise with everybody. Gusto din ng Japan, Vietnam, China. Kasi naman, you are not exercising together to fight together. You are exercising to fight the consequences of climate change. Yun ang enemy eh. We are not each other's enemy. So yung exercises will be HADR, humanitarian assistance and disaster response. Hindi yan yung balikat na you train for interoperability. Yes, interoperability for humanitarian assistance. HADR ang tawag doon, meaning low politics area. You don't train together to fight together. Iba na yung framework, ibang-iba yung framework. So why not? Diba?
Why not? Wow, that is a good picture to look at if we will see it the way you are telling us to look at it. Ngayon, ma'am, with the attacks, of course sa Ukraine, maraming buhay ang nawala. Ganon din naman sa mga sundalo ng Russia. Pero syempre, ang nagsimula ng attack ay ang Russia. Kapag ito ay tapos na, ma'am, natapos na nagkaroon na ng peace talk and na-implement na ang peace talk, may pananagutan ba ang Russia sa Ukraine, ma'am, na mangyayari?
I'm sure, pag finalo through ni Putin na the heart of a Ukrainian and a Russian, they beat as one, tutulungan niyang umahon ang mag-recover ang Ukraine. Oh? And siguro matanong ko lang, Peter, and this is not to justify Vladimir Putin. Bakit nung in-invade ni George Bush ng Amerika ang Iraq, walang kaabog-abog? Sabi niya merong weapons of mass destruction doon. Tapos sabi niya, ay mali, wala pala. Bakit thousands of lives, sinira nila yung mga museum ng Cradle of Civilization, Mesopotamia, Bakit walang ganitong opprobrium from the international community? Hindi mo ba tinatanong yan, Peter? And this is not to justify Putin. We're simply saying, gusto mong maging patas, bakit walang sumanib, nagsuporta ng mga Iraqis, ng Syrians, ng Libyans, ng Afghans, 'di ba? Bakit wala? Kasi ba Muslim sila o brown yung skin nila, no? Bakit yung mga refugees na nanggaling sa Ukraine, hinaharang nila sa Poland, sa Hungary dahil itim sila o kaya brown sila? I'm sure you've heard those stories, 'di ba?
Yes,
Hinaharang sila.
ma'am.
Ang gusto lang papasukin yung mga puti because Europe is white. That's why nga in Turkey, parang 19 kopong-kopong pa nag-a-apply. Hindi siya maka-usod-usod dyan, di ba? Yan sa EU na yan.
Yeah, and speaking of that kind of racist ideology, meron pong mga newscasters na habang nangyayari ang gulo sa Ukraine, they were saying, can you imagine that this is happening to Europeans? This is not a third world country. This is actually happening in Europe. It's like, so if it's third world country and we're not to non-Europeans, okay lang na magkaganito. But when somebody posted it, and this African American guy, he's a celebrity, I think he's a talk show host, and he said, so just because you're white, European, so it's okay to happen to brown people who are not European. Something like that. Kasi pag narinig nyo nga po, ma'am, yung newscast, yung mga newscasters, ganun nila dinidescribe ang situation. Parang, this is a hard situation happening to Europeans. And can you imagine, this is not happening to a third world country. This is happening to Europe. Ganyan ang tinitingnan. So, ma'am, sa ganitong pagtingin ng mga puti sa pandaigdigang perspective, ito nagpe-present ito malaking problema because why is racism still at large in this millennia? Ma'am, ano po ba ito? Ano po bang pinag-uugatan nitong ganitong hanggang ngayon? Dapat people below 50, dapat hindi na ganyan mag-isip eh. Pero bakit po kaya hanggang ngayon may ganyan tayong ideology na nakikita around the world, especially the whites of Europe?
Well, siguro, kalkalin na naman natin yung malalim naman na kasaysayan, no? Na ang unang mga bansa na talagang nag-explore ng buong planeta are the Portuguese, no? And the Spaniards, Spain. Hindi ba dahil away-away sila, yung Pope sabi niya, sige, hawag na kayo mag-away, divide ko yung planeta doon. To the east of this, Portugal, to the west, Spain. So, umpisa pa lang, yung Pope, siya yung nag-divide ng world. Of course, at a later time, nag-away-away sa Europe, yung mga principalities doon, no? And nagkaroon ng so many hundred years of war, which ended in the Treaties of Westphalia, 1648, which brought about the notion of a nation state. And the nation state is, I think, the biggest scourge of mankind because dinivide nga tayo into states, which we have now, with the principles of territoriality and sovereignty. Kanya ngayon, hirap na hirap tayong alisin yung mga artificial boundaries na yan. Minsan ka namang nakakita yung South China Sea, dinidivide mo sa 6. Siyempre, isa na tayo sa nakikipag-agawan doon. I'm sure, nabigay na nating example yung, di ba, pinapanganak sa Palawan in our coastal areas, tapos hina-harvest ng China doon sa lugar na niya. Parang unequal talaga na yung food security ng China, nakakakuha siya ng isda, tayo naman, nanganganak naman yung isda dito. So, hello, bakit isang isda hindi mo ako nabigyan? Nakita mo, this all came kasi you divided something which cannot be divided. Ilan ba atmosphere natin? Hindi ba isa lang ang atmosphere? Iba yung karagatan. Iba nga pangalan, pero isa lang yung karagatan. Magkakadugtong yan. And, makikita mo yan sa lengguwahe. And tayo talaga ang sa language natin, tayo ang talagang walang cleavages until pumasok ang mga colonial people, Spain, Japan, and US, of course. I'm sure, Peter, alam mo na pag sinabi kong siya, unless ilinaw ko sa iyo, hindi mo alam kung sinong sinasabi ko, babae, lalaki, LGBTQ, etc.
Yeah.
Dahil sa lengguwahe, makikita mo, we don't make any we don't discriminate. Siya
or
is a
we
human
do not
being.
specify. We do not specify. Siya is just a person for
Yes,
us.
a human being, no?
A human being.
Gender does not matter. It's a human being. Pero bakit nagkaroon tayo ng nag-divide? Kasi nga Spain ang may kasalanan yan, yan, nosotros sa mga busotros, ganon. Pati yung lamesa is female. Tapos, so,
Aha.
sila merong cleavage sa kanila yan. And makikita mo din yan sa psychiatry. Di ba sa kanila, the way they treat mental illness, dinidivide nila there's a divide between the mind, the consciousness, and the body. And yet we know, sa Eastern cosmology, ay magkasama yan, no? Isang mentally ill, iti-treat ng isang doktor na grounded in Eastern cosmology, will first find out, kunyari ikaw pasyente ko, sabi ko, Peter, wag mo na tayo usap-usap tungkol sa mga medicines mo, mga kung ano man yung Prozac, etc. Tell me muna yung relationship mo sa tatay mo, sa nanay mo, kapitbahay mo, sa pusa mo, sa aso mo, until matuto ko talaga saan ba nanggagaling yung depression mo at anxiety. At paglabas mo, tapos natin mag-usap, hindi mo na kailangan ng Prozac, no? Dahil naiintindihan mo na kung bakit every 2 days nagpapatiwakal ka. Mga ganun ba? Kita mo yung dalawang framework, di ba? Yung isa dinivide into mind and body, yung isa pinagsama niya yung dalawa. Ibang cosmology talaga.
So this is, itong pagdi-divide na ito, ma'am, na ginawa ng Spain, especially the Pope, whoever that Pope was, pardon me, I'm not really abreast with that history. Bakit mo, yung tanong ko, ma'am, bakit hanggang ngayon, may mga ganun pa rin? Bakit yung effect no, which was what, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, it has happened 500 years ago, bakit hanggang ngayon, in this millennia, ba't andyan pa kayo? What are you still doing here, ma'am?
Because we continue to socialize our young people to this divide. No-notice mo, Peter, merong nag-post ng two young people, siguro mga 2-3 years old. Yung isa is black and the other one is Caucasian. Nakita mo, they were just playing together. It is the adults who put the discrimination in the minds of the young people. That there are other people, isn't it? No? Magpaputi ka ha, dapat kilikili mo maputi, kung hindi walang magmamahal sa'yo. Mga ganun ba? So, stupid people will make their skin white kasi gusto nila maging kamukha ng Caucasian. So, our whole lives, lukob na lukob tayo dito na white is beautiful, black is not, 'di ba? And ayaw nilalabanan natin yung ganyang yung ganyang cleavages kasi alam natin na pag pinunit ko yung skin mo, lahat tayo pare-pareho yan. Whether violet skin mo, yellow or whatever, 'di ba?
Yeah. So it is actually the influence of the adults that create this kind of discrimination. So I think it's time for us, this generation, to really think about this, mga ka-3PM, and let's be better people than mga nauna sa atin. And let's start harvesting better understanding of humanity. Hindi ba, ma'am? Kasi nakakakilabot lang nakakakilabot lang isipin na discrimination, racial discrimination is still very, very present up to now. So,
yeah,
ma'am,
and what else
yes,
is, if I may just add a footnote there, what is really so devastating is that some of these laws are still there, no? Like, I'm sure you know the laws in the United States na nito lang late 60s, no? Na iniba nila na the black people are seen as 1/3 of a human being. You know, na hindi sila yung buong tao, no? At saka lang nila binago yung definition ng black. Ang dami talaga deeply deep-seated. Tapos sa Canada naman, hindi ba? Kung ang nanay mo alcoholic, no? Kukunin ka niyan, kukunin sa nanay mo, tapos gagawin kang sterile para hindi ka mag-reproduce. Porke lang lasengga yung nanay mo. Nakita mo yung and yet to the 80s, ginawa nila yan. And I'm sure, alam mo yung ginawa sa Australia, pagkapanganak ng mga aborigines doon, ninanakaw nila at nilalagay nila sa isang white family, ang aborigines na ngayon pa lang hinahanap, siguro mga ka-age ko ngayon yung mga aborigines na yun na ninakaw nila sa magulang. At pinapagbayad nila ng Australia dahil, Australian government, dahil ninakaw ang kanilang future, di ba? Kasi kinuha ka doon sa nanay mo eh.
Yeah.
At ayaw nilang for you to continue to be to lead the life of an aborigines, no? Gusto nila yung white kasi yung, di ba, yung white man's burden, but yung burden yun, wala kayong pakialam sa amin kung gusto namin nakahubad kami at naka-G-string lang kami, ngayon, no? Bakit tayo nag-Amerikana? Ang init-init nga dito, nag-Amerikana tayo. Hindi mo ba naisip yun, Peter?
Yeah. Well, I have a friend in Australia. And it was very funny because she posted a picture na nakatupis siya right out there. And then she said, okay magtupis dito pag summer kasi sa sobrang init, inaalaw ng gobyerno na lumabas sa mga tao na naka-swimwear. Going to the banks, going to the grocery. Okay. And that was years ago when she started living in Australia. Oo nga naman, ang init-init sa Australia. Mga Amerikana tayo. Ngayon, ma'am, given the situations that we are in right now, kasi bumukas, alam mo ma'am, me and mga ka-3PM, kung mga nanonood sa atin, and I'm sure a lot of young people would want to thank you for bringing this out. Because when it happened, nung nangyari ang SMNI debate with the presidential balls, and you talk to them about geopolitics, the Quad, na naging joke pa ka, ma'am, ano ba yung Quad? So everyone was doing like that. Tapos my friend posted yung Quad nung araw sa Makati. Ito ba yun? Sabi ko dyan. So it was, naging parang joke na lang. And we started reading about what Quad is all about. Tapos binasa ko din because na-interesante na kami as my first question sa inyo, kami mga ordinary thinking people, we have become very interested with the geopolitics. I have read about NATO, I have read about Quad, EU, United Nations, and all those things that will have the ASEAN. Pero isa lang ang factor na nakikita ko doon, ma'am. Isa lang ang common denominator lagi. Kahit saan mo tingnan, nandun ang USA. Is that good?
It's neither good nor not good. It's just an artifact of history. Once upon a time when I was little, I thought there were only two countries, the Philippines and the US. But now, of course, I know better that there are 200 others. 199 others. So you see, as you grow up, then you realize that your horizons are widening. And like you said, there is learning every day. And I just want your audience, your listeners, to just open their minds, can't have bigots here. It's really bigots who keep on othering other people. Yan ang phenomenon ng othering. The others are not us. The others are inferior. We are better than the others. And, the Europeans, unfortunately, have the propensity to do that, no? So pag ang European magsabi sa face ko yung mga human rights, talagang binablanka ko talaga sila. I don't mind. I don't mince words kasi scholar naman ako, hindi ako diplomat eh. So I really
excuse ka, kumbaga, you have the excuse to be blunt to them.
Yeah, because they should be called out.
Yeah.
Aba, saan ka naman what human rights are you talking about? Tignan ko nga kung paano nyo tinatrata yung mga Libyans, Syrians, etc. na nagpupunta dyan sa bansa nyo. Bakit nagpupunta sa bansa nyo? Kasi you pillage the whole African continent, di ba? Kinuha mo yung kanyang gold, silver, chromite, etc. Tapos ngayon, magtataka ka na pupunta-punta sa inyo. Bakit? Hindi mo tanggapin. Kayo yung nag-destroy ng African continent. All those things, malalim eh. Ang dami masyado eh. And ako talaga umiinit ang ulo ko, Peter, pag nire-repaso ko to eh.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of scholars who are like you, ma'am, the undiscovered, brilliant minds all around us who share the same ideas that you possess right now. And it's just so glad that inabutan ka namin, ma'am, that we are here speaking about it. Honestly, no holds barred, we are talking about it. And this is good for people like me who want to understand the history of this happening all around me and to get a better perspective on how we should look at the world right now. Kasi ma'am, ako para ang kamalayan ko nabuksan lang 6 years ago eh. Before 6 years ago, I wasn't really thinking of nothing. I wasn't, I think I have my job, I'm okay, I'm earning money, I'm fine. I eat 3 times, minsan 5 times a day. I think I'm better than everyone else. Me, myself. Pero ngayon, ma'am, with 6 years ago, nabuksan ng kamalayan ng maraming tao, whether you react this way or react that way, ang sinasabi ko nga, itong nangyaring pagiging presidente ni President Duterte, maraming mata ang bumukas. Kung paano man bumukas ang mata mo, hindi na yan mahalaga hanggat bukas ang mata mo at nakakakita ka. That is how I see things. Ngayon ma'am, given this new kamalayan na marami sa amin ang nangyayari at nai-encounter namin ang mga taong kagaya mo na, can you imagine ma'am, I didn't know about you until a year ago, I guess. And you have been doing this magnificent work that you do for 55 years, teaching about this, researching about geopolitics, talking to the world about everything that needs to be talked about. Dito sa kamalayan, ma'am, na discover namin within ourselves now, ma'am, I want to seek an advice from you. This is for me, guys. But if you can take as much as what I can take from this, I hope you can. Paano namin ito, ma'am, i-handle ng tama? Kasi marami ako nakikita na sila nagegarahan ng mga ideas nila. Hindi ko na alam kung kanino ako makikinig. Kasi this politician is saying na ito ang tamang gawin. This politician is saying, but they are politicians. Should I listen to you? Especially you, politician. I know you, hindi ka ganyan katalino. So yung ganyan. So nagkakaroon ako ng confusion how to handle the things I know. What advice can you give people like me who want to understand this better? Kasi kanina po sinabi nyo, manood ako. Sige, manonood ako and I will form my own judgment. Pero in knowing stuff, kasi ang influence ngayon, ma'am, is very easy, especially to people like me na parang mas gusto kong matuto. Kung ang marinig ko, mas magaling magsalita. Sa kanya ba ako mas makikinig kasi mas magaling siya? How can you advise me to discern better?
Well, that's a long list that I have in my mind, but siguro topmost would be just think of yourself as part of one humanity, that everyone has an equal right, like you have, to articulate something, to articulate their views. They may be wrong, but just listen to them because you also want to be listened to, diba? And you will have to accept certain things. They may be wrong according to your perspective, but you have to listen to them. And the fact that we chose liberal democracy rather than dictatorship authoritarianism means that we are free to articulate what is in our mind. Of course, there are limits. I'm not free to use bad words in reference to you, to impugn your person and your reputation and the like. So if each one of us will just look at each other, regardless of age, gender, color of the skin, etc., then we will just see each other as plain human beings. And by the way, it does not cost to be kind. Anything to be kind, no? Just be kind. Mas gusto mo nang sapukin yung mukha ng isang tao, tumalikod ka na lang dahil yan ang uumpisahan ng hidwaan. And yes, it also helps, Peter, that you consider yourself not a Filipino journalist. You're just a journalist sharing your expertise, your competence with journalists all over the world. I'm not a Filipino political scientist. I am just a political scientist sharing the methodology of science of politics. No, we are citizens of the world. If we can only remove the cleavages brought on by artificial boundaries, then that is already a good start. So the word othering, others, us, me, will not occur in our vocabulary. It's difficult, I know, but it can be done. Once upon a time, I know my mother was telling me when I went to the UP, sabi niya sa akin, Huya, pagka nagkaroon ka ng master na ka-eskwela dyan, siguraduhin mong wag ka diyang nakikita mo siya pag naglalakad siya, doon ka sa likod kasi sasaksakin ka niyan sa likod. Sabi ko, man ako, Diyos ko si Mommy, public school teacher. When I look back, sabi ko, and Mommy was a public school teacher. Imagine yung tinuro niya sa akin. Mabuti na lang binuksan ng UP ang aking, and of course, the fact that Normi Suari was my colleague. Siyempre, bukas na bukas yung isip ko ngayon. No? Nakita mo? So,
that's a wonderful advice, ma'am. Just consider yourself part of humanity, that you have to listen to each and every ideology and suggestion, no matter how wrong it is, and take it in stride, right, ma'am?
Yes. Otherwise, we will let's just kill each other.
Yeah.
Kaya nga, naggawa tayo ng tinatawag na gobyerno kasi the government is there to regulate our beastly conduct. Can you imagine pag walang gobyerno?
Oo.
Magsasaksakan na lang tayo rito.
Totoo,
Diba?
totoo, totoo, totoo. No, ma'am, ito, talking about our government right now, and it's part, the role it plays in our life, with this attack that happened to Ukraine, with the kind of international relations this administration has made for us, na sinasabi nga, we are neutral, friends to everybody, enemy to none. Ganyan na ating stand ngayon. Pero nakikita pa rin natin, naramdaman natin sa pagtaas ng mga gasolina sa itong nangyayari sa Ukraine. Siyempre, pag tumaas ang gasolina, tataas ang bilihin pero hindi naman tumataas ang sweldo. Ma'am, paano po ito dapat hinahandle na tama ng gobyerno upang kahit paano naman, maramdaman natin na medyo yung, of course, worldwide ang nangyaring paglusok ng Russia sa Ukraine dahil nga sa supply ng oil, supply ng gas and everything of that sort. Nagkakaroon pa ngayon, ma'am, na parang sinasanction ng US ang pagbenta ng Russia ng kanilang mga oil everywhere else in the world. That's why I think we are suffering more because tayo ang naapektuhan, tayo mga consumers. What advice, ma'am, can you give this administration, given that its rule or its leadership will be gone in a few months, and new administration will come in after May 2022. What advice could you give this administration na exit at itong administrasyon na papasok?
Well, siguro more dun sa papasok na administration kasi ilang hilingan na lang ay tapos na yung Duterte administration. No? So, I think there are many good things that come out of human disasters like this. One of them is to telegraph to us that we're really stupid people. Sobrang katangahan natin. Ang araw-araw sa atin, ang hangin-hangin sa maraming lugar. Napapaligiran tayo ng volcano geothermal, which means, and yet 70% ng ating energy requirements galing pa din sa fossil fuel. What are we doing, for God's sake? Andyan na lahat ng ingredients na pwede nating gamitin, solar, wind, biomass, etc. And yet we're not going there. So, tapusin na natin yung katangahan natin, no? And and let's make do with this so that alam natin na hindi tayo mako-hostage ng maya 100 pesos per liter na yung yung gasolina, 'di ba? Hindi ka niya mako-hostage kasi yung pinanggagalingan ng energy mo nandito sa bansa mo. So, naka-delink ka doon sa energy connectivities, 'di ba? So, talagang it's really self-sufficiency, unfortunately, but the good thing with us is that andyan na. The raw materials are there. You only need to stitch them together and crochet them together and bring about renewables, no? But yes, it can be done. But there's a lot of commitment and a lot of political courage. Kasi kung wala kang political courage, yung susunod na gobyerno, wala na naman, dapa na naman tayo dyan. So, ang hinihingi ko nga sa kanila, hinahanap ko sa programa nila, saan yung inyong mga gagawin to fulfill our commitments sa 2015 Paris Agreement at saka yung COP26. No? Yung talagang reducing, increasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere on an individual level. Diba? Peter, nung kailan ba ito kagabi ba? Parang may napanood ako, hindi ko na matandaan na channel. Yung isang desert somewhere in this planet, punong-punong-puno ng guess what? Mga damit na discarded. Why? Hindi ba very high-consuming society tayo? Bagay, ako din, may culpa dyan. Pag may nagustuhan akong blouse, lahat ng kulay ng blouse na yun binibili ko. And yet, alam mo namang, hindi mo masusuot lahat yon. Kaya, siguro, on an individual level, kung talagang gusto mong girahin ng climate change, yung individual talagang umpisa hindi ba?
Yeah. Ma'am, thank you very much. Ngayon po, pupunta po tayo sa pinaka-aabangan ng ating mga listeners and viewers is to ask, to give their comments or some questions to you.
Sure.
So, can we have them? Ito si Karen Minyao. Digong bought military equipment directly to Russia before before para punan ng kakulangan ng kagamitan ng ating sandatahang para lalaban sa illegal drugs and criminality? Can the legislature make a law that the government can buy cheaper oil directly? I think this is from Russia for an immediate response to oil gigantic hike. Hirap kasi, di lang mga maralitang Pilipino, kundi pati mga OFWs. Pwede kaya ito, Prof?
You don't need a law to do that. No, nobody prevents us from buying from anywhere, except yung US dahil meron tayong mutual defense treaty at we train and we exercise with them. Talagang doon tayo equipment nilang ginagamit natin, no? At they really frown on us buying Russian equipment, war equipment. I remember when I met my counterpart, nasa National Defense College pa ako noon, kakaupo ko pa lang sa Moscow, ang unang tanong agad niya sa akin, why are you not buying arms from us when, our military equipment are a third of the price that you get from the US? And wala akong maisip na sagot. Ang naisip ko, kasi siyempre kailangan akong sumagot bago ako umupo. Well, sabi ko, well, I guess it's because you're not training with us and the Americans are training with us. Of course, in the end, tama nga yung sagot ko. Because we're not training with you. Siyempre, American equipment ang ginagamit namin. And that is the reason why naiintindihan kong ang Russia kung bakit gusto niya ng status of forces agreement with us. So they can train with us. Ang mas mura talaga by a third ang kanilang mga armas at ang mga helicopters, etc. And they really have, very, very fine technical people, scientists, and the like. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Karen, for your question. Then we have another one. Fred, what should we do to survive a third world war? Wow.
Well, if a third world war is a nuclear war, then whatever you do, you're dead. So you can't do anything.
So we die, Fred. That's how we survive. Let's just survive on the other side of the world. Christopher Vidal, saan po tayo nasali sa sphere of influence ngayon, ma'am?
Well, the sphere of influence the sphere of influence of the US. Whenever we go to Hawaii, yung kanilang yung command post nila doon, ngayon na Indo-Pacific command post na ang tawag. Ang unang-unang bubulaga sa iyo, Peter, is a map. And yung map na yon, makikita mo yung tinatawag na AOR ng Amerika, Area of Responsibility. Sakop niya lahat, ang North Asia, ang East Asia, Southeast Asia, na ngayon ay sinasakop ng Chinese sphere of influence. That's why yung sinabi ko kanina, please tigilan nyo na yung pagdi-divide ng suha kasi ayaw naming ma-divide. Meron kaming sariling wisyo. Gusto namin, kami lang sa sarili namin magde-determine ang aming kinabukasan. At hindi minumove-move nyo kami sa chessboard. Di ba? That's what we're pleading to the major powers. Yeah, for as long as the Mutual Defense Treaty is in force, we belong to the sphere of influence of the United States of America.
Okay, so that's where we are. Marites, Bichara, what does sanction mean to Russia? Pros and cons. Are sanctions legal?
Well, I'm sure Vladimir Putin is a strategist. He's quite intelligent, a former KGB operative, and he has prepared for this. No, nag-lock up sila ng napakaraming very high reserves. And then they had an agreement with China na hindi sila, i-skip nila yung dollarization ng kanilang mga transaction. So they are, transacting with the ruble, Russian ruble, and Chinese renminbi. And I think the Ukraine war will increase the pace of the de-dollarization of the world. Mag-move away tayo sa dollar, which of course the US does not want. But sanctions, they cut both ways. If you will notice, siguro mga a week or so ago, ayaw nilang in-exclude nila sa sanctions yung gas and oil coming from Russia. Dahil nga, manginginig ang Europe, Germany particularly, were upwards of 30%, almost 40% ng kanilang energy requirements is covered by a contract from Russia. As a matter of fact, finreeze pa nga nila yung Nord Stream 2, 1,200 kilometers of that from Russia to Europe, dahil nga inudyukan siya ng Amerika. But you will notice, Peter, yung bagong chancellor who replaced Angela Merkel, ayaw talaga niya yung sanction. Kasi alam niya, the sanction will hit Germany worse rather than Russia. Kasi ang Russia, in fact, panalo ang Russia ngayon kasi nga ang taas-taas ang gasolina. Kasi,
Yeah.
siya, major gas producer siya eh. Di ba? In fact,
Mm.
ang Russia, siguro lingid sa kaalaman ng iba, nag-offer nga sila na imbis bumibili-bili tayo sa Saudi, diyan kung saan pa yung nanggagaling ang langis natin, andyan lang yung Russia, tutuktok natin eh. Russia is an Asian power, no? And kung meron siyang oil links na ginawa nila to China, pwedeng-pwede din niyang gawin sa atin. Ang lapit natin sa kanya, andyan lang siya sa north, 'di ba?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marites. How much damage will sanctions do to Russia? Will it damage them?
Well, a lot, but but Russia's economy will not collapse. It is a highly mineralized country, neon, krypton, chromite, gold, etc. It's going to survive, no? But yes, it will be magagalusan talaga siya. Siguro hindi lang magagalusan, talagang lulugmok siya for a while. But this is a great country with great people and excellent scientists. They're going to survive. By the way, killing Vladimir Putin will not cut it. You're going to. Oh no. Well,
But
some
I think
people
it's
thought
ready.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you,
Actually,
Marites. Fred, do you think we will benefit from the alliance with PRRD and Putin established?
we don't have an alliance as an alliance, but there is a Russian embassy here. We have very, very robust relationship with Russia. And as I said, right now that we have a new ambassador there, Igor Bailen, who's a neighbor here in the UP, that there will be, had promised me that there will be more and more academic exchanges, meaning if I were younger, I teach in Russian universities, Russians will teach here in our universities. That's the way to go, Peter. You just treat people as human beings. They are not Russians, we are not Filipinos, we're just human beings. And,
We're just
we'd
human
like to
beings.
sell mango, a pineapple, etc. to Russian vodka and whatever else that we can exchange. Diba?
Yeah, yeah. So parang Fred na no that sinagot ni Ma'am Carlos is being human is already a good alliance, being part of the humanity.
Part
Okay,
of
thank you,
humanity.
Fred. Yeah. Sam, China doesn't want war. They are very well aware that they do not have the leverage of international support.
Nobody wants war. China wants to sell to the world. So, but as I said, you don't plan for war, you stumble into it. No? So, if you say that Adolf Hitler really planned for war, no, they just stumbled into it because of what the international community did to it after the First World War. So, but that's another, kalkal na naman tayo ng istorya niya. And I don't think you have the time for those,
We
stories.
need, kagaya nga sinabi ni Ma'am Clarita, Sam, let's just do our studies and research more so we can understand it better, I guess. Thank you,
Yeah, and
Sam.
siguro, Peter, an additional note on that. Basahin niyo po yung sinusulat ng mga scholars. Because scholars do not have an agenda. They will just declare what they see on the ground. And as much as possible, wag niyo hong basahin yung pinapalabas ng mga embassy at consulates dahil nakangiwi po yan in a particular direction. Basahin niyo po yung sinusulat ng mga scholars.
The scholars, we will have to bear that in mind. Why is Russia a threat to Poland? Is there a possibility the presence of China in the Baltic Sea, since China lived to crawl gently to economically invade countries?
Uh, all misplaced. The Baltic countries, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, they don't have the same historical shared history like Belarus and Russia. And, they're already part of the EU. They may even be part of the NATO if they wish, and Vladimir Putin and his cohorts would not care. Um, about the possibility, I don't know why China should be in the Baltic Sea. It's not anything strategically important to them. What China is doing is with its Belt and Road Initiative is it is building railways, it's building roads, it's building all this infrastructure to connect. To be fair to China, really, China doesn't care about your ideology, etc. and your eternal dynamics, it just wants to build roads. Of course, it will not build roads as a part of charity. You sign up
Yeah.
something with China, uh, you'd better, comply with your commitments. Huwag ka iyak-iyak dyan pag tinake over ng China yung port mo, kasi sa katangahan mo, ba't mo sinainan niya? Di ba? It's not as if nilagyan ka ng gun sa ulo mo tapos saka mo siya sinain. I mean, let's be fair to China, no? Sila na nga nagpapautang-utang yan tapos minamasama nyo pa. Again, part of yung bias ng mga Western media, no? To paint China as the other evil. Yung isang evil is Russia.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Marites. Fred, if we maintain a strong diplomatic ties with Russia, how do you think US will react?
We don't care how US will react. No? So why not? That was one of the things that President Marcos did for us to cease to be the tail of the American kite. He opened relations with the USSR. So, but it's a breakthrough, no? And open with Saudi, the non-traditional things where before, ang unang-unang pupuntahan ng presidente na elect ay sa Washington DC, di ba? Si
Yeah.
Duterte ba nakita mo, Peter, kung nagpunta sa Amerika? Hindi, di ba?
He
O
never
tignan mo yung
wanted.
bagong,
He said he never wanted.
tignan mo yung bagong na-elect na South Korean president kahapon, no? Sinabi agad sa kanya ni Biden, una mong bisitahin Washington DC, ha? Oo. Kasi itong bagong elect na si President Yoon, no? Ay talagang pro US.
Thank you, Fred. Facundo. Hi, Facundo. Hi, Prof. Carlos. Saudi Arabia and UAE leaders declined calls with the Biden administration amid fears of oil price spike. Seems RU is gaining sympathy from countries that were sanctioned by US before.
Ay, bakit naman nila tatanggapin yung call ni Biden? Ang daming masamang sinabi ni Biden dun sa mga countries na yan. So, ikaw ba siyempre, tao din, at mo, again, we go back, tao din yan, nasasaktan nila kalooban yan. Matapos mong mura-murahin yung leader nila, ngayon, nililigawan mo. Parang si Maduro ng Venezuela, matapos nilang ikatan diplomatic relations ngayon nililigawan nila si Maduro dahil sa oil. Pati yung Iran nililigawan din nila ngayon. Ano ba yan?
Yeah. Parang in a greater proportion na sinasabi ng mga magulang natin sa atin, mag-ingat ka sa mga pinagsasalitaan mo na masama dahil baka in the future, kailanganin mo sila.
Tama ka. Habang umaakyat ka dun sa hagdan, Peter, huwag ka mang-apak ng tao sa mukha kasi magpababa ka. Yan din ang mamimit mo.
Yeah. Kasabihan sa showbiz, ma'am, smile at people on your way up because they're the same people you will see when you go down.
Precisely.
Yeah. Precisely.
As I said, it doesn't cost anything to be kind. No?
To be kind.
Gawin mo na lang sa bahay, pag nabwisit ka, magbasag ka na lang ng mga plato na mura-mura.
Yeah. Vent out somewhere. Kill a mouse or something. Thank you, Facundo. Thank you. Bobby, ironic that US now looking for oil from their adversaries, Iran and Venezuela. Looks like their strategic petroleum reserve level is fast decreasing.
Yeah, hindi nila gagamitin yung strategic reserves nila for as long as there are other alternative sources. Pero siguro, talagang inano na nila yung pride nila, yung dating countries na na nilulubog nila ng sanction, Iran and Venezuela. Ngayon kaibigan na nila, no. Maganda yan sa Iran. Kasi yung JCPOA na winidraw ni Trump noon, yung nuclear deal with Iran, ay marirevive dyan. And if I were Iran, I'll take advantage of the situation. Sige, you need some oil, then i-revive natin yung nuclear deal. Diba?
Yeah. You can get something from me, I should be getting something from you.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Bobby. Flavi. Hi, Flavi. Very informative kasi for the longest time, puro Amerika lang ang sinusubo sa atin. Kaya nga achievement sa atin na makarating sa US. Pero because of Prof. Carlos, kahit pa paano nalaman natin yung totoong Russia, maraming salamat po.
Yeah, wag na po tayong magpunta sa Amerika. Kalahati ng pamilya ko nandun. Kaya lang, punta na lang kayo sa Clark, parang Amerika na rin yun. Pero magpunta kayo dun sa mga Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and punong-punong-puno po ng istorya yan talaga. And isa pa, Peter, ng pinakamaganda, dahil nag-lecture ako dyan for 3 weeks, Turkey is really, wow. Iba talaga ang Turkey. Yeah, it's not just the
Yeah,
food. Huh? Yeah.
yeah.
Oo, talagang yung replete with the history, the Holy Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Kitang-kita mo, hindi nila sinira-sira itong mga vestiges of history. Talagang wow, lunod na lunod ka sa istorya sa Turkey. And like sa Moscow, minaliit ko na naman ang mga taga Istanbul, no? Kasi nandun ako ng February nung nagle-lecture ako. No? Diyos Mariosep. They're better than New Yorkers, ang kanilang mga ay, nako, sorry ha.
Parang hindi na naman magaganda yung mga damit na dinala mo.
Siyempre naman, well, sabi ko, total papunta lang naman ako sa Turkey. Ito na lang gagamit. Nagmukha tuloy akong pulubi doon. Winter pa naman.
It's like now when I went to the Louvre Museum, when I went to the Italian section, and I saw all those paintings hanging on walls. I didn't even know where to look anymore because everything was filled with all those wonderful paintings. So you know what I did? I just sat on the floor and just looked around because para ako nang hina sa kultura na pumasok sa akin. And I think we should explore the world if we can. And maybe we can see better perspective on how we should involve ourselves with just being human. It's
Yes, and
beautiful.
it's easier to feel like a citizen of the world when you travel. No?
When you
And
travel.
this is the best time to travel to countries which are already fairly COVID-free, like tayo, because now they're really trying to get tourists to come back. And the tourist
Mhm.
packages are like you will salivate at their prices. Talagang sobrang baba ng mga tour packages
Bagsak
ngayon.
presyo, kumbaga.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Flavi. Emil traces back to the religious, ironically, dividing the world. And this is Emil's reaction to what we were talking about when the Pope divided the world. Yeah, traces back to the religious, ironically, dividing the world.
Ironically, kanya
Yeah,
yung mga religious wag na po kayo ang maglagay ng cleavage sa society natin kasi sobra na yung cleavages natin. And
yeah,
may pinatatamaan ako, yes, this is not to whom it may concern. And I know to whom I am really addressing that admonition.
yeah. And listen. Thank you, Emil. Thank you. Hindi ka nakapagpigil, ha? Larissa, he shouldn't be commenting, but he cannot help himself. Clarissa, may napanood po ako sa isang interview ni Alvin El Chico. Yung guest nila said, na we need to take side daw sa nangyayari sa Ukraine and Russia. Sa inyong opinion po, mali ba na nag-neutral tayo?
You cannot be, depends. You cannot be neutral in the face of inhumanity of man to man. You have to be partial to being human. Okay, you cannot be neutral. Even in foreign policy, you cannot sit on the fence. Sino naman maniniwala sa iyo, Peter, kung nandyan ka sa fence na wala ka, you don't stand for anything.
Yeah,
That is the reason why the next president of this republic better be a fairly intelligent person who is wily, who's Machiavellian, who
yeah,
is a strategic thinker kasi napaka-complicated ng world ngayon. No? And
ngayon.
hindi nyo ako pwedeng bitbitin bilang consultant niyo on foreign policy because especially when you're in a crisis situation, dapat yung sarili nyong katalinuhan or yung angkin na kabobohan ang talagang magsa-surface, no? Kanya nga napaka-importante na strategies, wily and Machiavellian yung next political leader.
Yeah, yeah. Kailangan natin mamili ng tama na propaganda or puro paganda. Doon na tayo sa talagang alam natin makakatulong sa bayan. Karen, with 3 months left in his term, would it be good advice from Duterte to ask legislature na gumawa ng batas to buy cheaper? I think we had this earlier.
Yeah.
Tama ba? I think we answered this. Tama ba ako, Karen? The legislature gumawa ng batas to buy cheaper oil from Russia for an immediate response. Yeah, we read that already. Leonardo, bakit apektado tayo sa bawat desisyon ng mga puti? Sanctions of America affects our doorsteps.
Oh, it is not just the white, because our economies are meshed together. Nakita ninyo, pagka yung supply chain does not pay attention to ideology. So you can get, the cheap production, they can come from different parts of the world, and that should also signal to us that you cannot divide the world because no one country can be self-sufficient in all these needs. Kasi kung saan-saan mo kinukuha yung Apple ninyo, yung equipment niyo, yung telepono niyo, katakot-takot ang pinaggagalingan niyang mga bansa. Kanya pag nagkaroon ng hidwaan sa mga bansa na to, di siyempre titigil yung supply na yan. Yung krypton, yung neon na kailangan ninyo sa inyong mga chip production, saan siya nanggagaling? Di sa Ukraine. Di siyempre magkakahirapan na naman ito, lalo na sa mga e-vehicles, ngayon electric vehicles, dahil mahihinto ito. We are part of the whole humanity of 7 to 8 billion right now. It is not just the whites who are making these kinds of decisions, but because the economies are enmeshed, and that is good. We are buying, we're selling from each other. And that is why this is affecting us. By the way, Ukraine or no Ukraine, ang gasolina nga, that other time, palagi ako naglilista-lista niyan, may notebook ako palagi pag nagbabiyahe ako. Yung isa nga nakita ko, 76 pesos na, wala pang Ukrainian, ha? So, ganyan nga. So, balik tayo yung sinabi ko kanina kay Peter, let's pay attention to renewables kasi lahat ng pangangailangan ng renewables andito na sa bansa natin.
Yeah. Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you so much for your question. Well, Lenny left the Amelia, Professor, if the Ukraine-Russian war, is the Ukraine-Russian war a proxy war by the US against Russia at the expense of Ukraine?
In a way, yes, but in a way, no. Talagang ito ay nanggaling talaga sa dynamics between Ukraine and Russia, pero nasapian nahaluan na ng American, NATO, and EU interest dimension, mainly because of the geography and mainly because of many, many other things which pushed Vladimir Putin and his cohorts to decide what they decided on February 24.
Thank you, Amelia. Max, do you think the US will automatically help us if we get invaded by China?
Well, first of all, the premise is unlikely. China will not invade us. And no, the key word there is automatically. Look at the Mutual Defense Treaty. They still have to go through their constitutional processes, which, tama yung sinabi ni President Ferdinand Marcos, by the time mag-decide ang Congress nila at yung presidente nila, naubos na tayong lahat. So, hindi tulad yun sa NATO na merong automaticity. An attack of one is an attack on the 30 other members.
Thank you, Max. Karen, in my opinion, may konting knowledge si Kali Hodi, may average si Secretary Abella, pero mas malalim talaga ang kalaman ni BBM sa foreign relations. With what's going on sa mga rumors na minamanipula ang survey results nearing election, bilang karaniwang Pilipino na nakakabahala ang mga tumatakbong pangulo na limited ang kaalaman sa nagaganap sa mundo, especially foreign policies. Pag magtatagumpay ang nandadaya, posible bang girahin tayo ng China?
Mukhang hindi magkadugtong yung earlier premise dun sa last question. No?
Medyo nakadalito.
Yeah. Last question muna siguro. Less likely that China will do anything aggressive outside of what it's doing already in the contested South China Sea. But yes, it's deeply concerning that there are these kinds of stories. I hope they are not grounded, and I hope people realize that the COMELEC is at the heart of our democratic process. You compromise the election agency, you have compromised our whole democracy. So evil people who are making plans for these evil designs, you'd better think twice, because the unintended consequences are just tragic for everyone.
Yeah, and I don't think people will still tolerate this as we have tolerated it before. So thank you, Karen. Thank you. Daisy, I hope you're listening. Ano ba kayo? Lowell Arevalo. Prof, do you think that US would try to influence our election para lumakas ang positioning nila dito sa Asia? Na-curious lang po sa survey na i-manipulate.
Well, I hope not, because we're not stupid people. And there are many, many publics who are IT savvy. I'm not one of them. But they should know when things are being manipulated. We really don't care who wins on July 1. But we care that whoever wins does not win by cheating. So siguro, medyo kuidaw kayo dyan dahil hindi naman kami tanga eh. Diba?
Yeah. Thank you, Lowell. Kusina ni Pops, will the developments in Ukraine embolden China to recover Taiwan?
I hope not. But US keeps on needling China in regard to Taiwan. Kita mo, parang several days ago, nagpadala pa siya ng top-level defense and security officials sa Taiwan. Ano ba ang gustong mangyari ng US? Parang kulang pa yung Ukraine sa iyo, no? Yeah. And if you will notice, look at the map, layo-layo ng Taiwan. And despite all the verbal promises of US to Taiwan, tignan natin, ha? Oh.
Thank you, Kusina, ni Pops. Lowell, Prof, do you think that US will try to influence our election para lumakas ang positioning? I think we have covered this already. Ma, kaya ba? Alin, posible po ba na hindi pagbilhan ng oil ni Iran at Venezuela ang US? Baka po mag-trigger na naman ang US ng war para sa pilitan at hindi makuha ang sa usap. Baka matrigger na naman ang US sa war para sa pilitan kung hindi makuha sa usapan, Prof.
Iran is headed by very, very intelligent leaders. And you have a wily leader in Maduro in Venezuela. If you will notice, na itchipwera na talaga yung opposition na dati sinusuporta ng Europa and other countries, ngayon inatras na nila yung suporta nila. So palagay ko magbibigay sila ng oil sa Amerika. Pero quid pro quo. And hihingi ng Iran yung JCPOA at hihingi ng Venezuela na alisin ang sanctions sa Venezuela. Kasi ang oil does not carry a flag. Miski ano naman ilagay mo sa gasolina mo meron ba diyang American oil, Venezuelan oil, Iranian oil? Oil lang yan di ba? Gasolina lang yan, hindi. Wala siyang hawak na bandila.
Thank you, Al. Weng, magkakaroon po ba na negatibo o positibong epekto ang relationship ng Amerika at Pilipinas kung sakaling si BBM ang manalo po?
Depends. Kung manalo si Marcos, I'm sure dun sa nangyaring debate noon, parang natandaan ko ang sinabi niya na ayaw niyang i-scuttle ang Mutual Defense Treaty. So, meron siya talagang good understanding of the historical basis of the Mutual Defense Treaty, pero kailangan siguro talaga ito ng masusing review. Kasi ibang-iba na yung 1951 at saka ngayon. No? Sobra ng maraming dekada ang nagdaan at ibang-iba na talaga ang sitwasyon.
Okay. Thank you, Weng. Bobby, first was Afghanistan withdrawal, now Ukraine, and Biden's low approval ratings. Do you think it's inevitable the Republicans will take back Congress come November by Pelosi, Biden to be impeached?
Less likely for Biden to be impeached. Maybe the Congress will become Republican, the lower and upper chamber, we'll see. No? Too many unknowns, too many moving parts. Nobody knows.
Thanks, Bobby. Odette, good PM po sa idol kong professor watching from Japan.
Thank you.
Japan. Maraming salamat mga ka-3PM sa inyong mga tanong at comments. Huwag kalimutan laging manood ng Pilipinas Attitude pa. Hantog sa inyo na 3PM Pilipinas muna. On that note, Prof, we would like to thank you. Gusto ko lang mag-thank you kay Prof. Carlos for sharing your knowledge of the Filipino people. I'm 47 years old. Dati sumama ako sa rally. Yet because of Professor, parang gusto ko nang mag-aral ulit tungkol sa foreign policy. Let's do that, bye. I'm one with you there. Hi, Prof.
Yeah,
Clarita
kanya nga
Carlos.
siguro Peter, no? Minsan, maliit lang kasi ang mga graduate classes cannot be more than 10. Para sa 3 hours, meron talagang malayang talakayan. Sana merong, I'm sure the technology is there, although wala pa sa UP. Yung, minsan kasi 6 lang estudyante ko and I really give parang excellent lecture for 3 hours. So sabi ko, 6 lang naman ang nakikinig. Sana meron pa ding ibang pwedeng makinig. Parang ganun ba, di ba?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wish.
Sayang ma'am kung 6 lang ang magbe-benefit sa napaka-gandang mga sinishare ninyo with regards to how we should understand the world. I think we should. I think we should
Yeah,
go
kanya
by.
lang, oo. Nagdadamutan kasi ang mga universities eh. Kasi dapat may consortium sila. So pag si Carlos ay nag-talk about that sa Kashmir, no, lahat ng universities will participate online or whatever kung ano yung technology because I can lecture to 600. You get my drift,
Exactly.
Total, when I prepare, and it takes really tremendous effort to prepare for a 3-hour lecture, Akala nyo ba, nagbabasa lang kami dyan ng tik-tik o kaya bulgar, no? We read, dami naming binabasa to prepare for a 3-hour lecture.
Yeah. Maricel, hi, Prof. Clarita Carlos. I take my hats off to you. You speak your heart and mind out. You speak with wisdom, clarity, and with authority. God bless you and keep you and your family safe always.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm 75 and it's still part of the conversation of our political life. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And I have to say, this is out of topic. You're 75 and you have terrific legs. Ana Marie. Yeah. That's why I commented, you look ravishing, ma'am. I just had to say it.
Salamat, Peter.
Pardon me. Ana Marie Bichara, love Prof. Clarita.
Related to Emil?
Yeah, that's a sister. Odette Puada.
Thank you.
Keep safe po kayong lahat dyan, Sir Peter and Prof. Thank you, Odette. Kayo din dyan sa Japan. Please keep safe. Del, salute, Prof. Carlos. Thank you, Del. Sherwin Santos, brilliant mind of Professor Clarita Carlos. Ma'am, we just have to read this because inaabangan ka po talaga ng aming mga viewers.
Thank you.
Nano ni, parang galing ni Prof. Kaso parang matali ako uupo ako sa klase niya. Ano ka ba? Hindi.
Well, kasi ganito, Peter, I tell you that I read so many books and journal articles to prepare for the class. Bakit nagpe-prepare ang guro? Ikaw hindi ka nagpe-prepare, 'di ba? Kanya nga ako, Peter, siguro nasabi ko na to sa previous, ayaw ko nagpupunta ka sa klase nang punong-puno ka ng makeup tapos hindi ka nagbasa. Talagang yan ang ayaw ko. Not so much the makeup dahil may oras ka mag-makeup tapos hindi ka nagbasa. 'Di ba? Nakakaya mo.
Inuna mo mag-eyeshadow. Ano ka ba? Kaysa magbuklat ng libro. Karen Linaw. Prof, salamat po sa generosity ng wisdom niyo. Baka naman pwede po kayong tumakbo sa Senate next election. Would you consider that, ma'am?
No, I'd rather remain a scholar scientist and wala nga akong salapi para tumakbo sa barangay sa Senate pa.
And we like where you are, ma'am. We like where you are. You are very reachable sa mga kagaya namin gustong mas matuto. And we thank you for that, Prof. Raymond Mariano, kudos, Prof. Carlos. Kindly do this live chat often, very enlightening. We will try, Raymundo, and we try very hard. Sally, I'm learning from you, Prof. You're the best. More power.
Thank you.
Boggs, Bonhoc, more of these very educational topics with Prof. Carlos. We will do it. Pagka may nag-arise po na very important matter, we will try to get the professional consultation from Professor Carlos.
Thank you.
Geraldine, hello Prof. Hopefully mabigyan ng pansin ng mga unemployed na professionals, lalo na kaming mga teachers na 5 to 10 years nang graduate at nakapasa ng LET.
Yeah, ang gustong-gusto ko ngang mangyari na nangyayari noong face-to-face, during the summer, may mga teachers na nagpupunta dito sa UP tapos, binibigyan na namin sila ng bagong mga methodologies ng ito nga gusto ko nga yung geopolitics, Peter, sa
Mhm.
senior high pa lang ma-introduce na siya.
Yeah.
Imbis na yun sa BA o kaya sa MA, PhD, introduce mo na siya doon sa grade 10 to 12. Parang intro ba? Tapos yung higher level discussion, ilagay mo siya dun sa MA, PhD. Di ba? Because
Yeah.
geopolitics is not just my concern as a scholar, it is everybody's concern. No? So central sa buhay niyo ito eh. Hindi lang
Mhm.
ako. Di ba?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Ma'am. Gerald, yun na pala yun. Athena, I'm thankful for your lectures, Prof. Carlos. I feel lucky that at my age of 70, I still have a lot to learn and I'm learning from the best.
Yes, lifelong learning, learning does not end.
That's
Because
not.
you are like 70 and please stop I hope people will not take the ageism route, no?
Yeah.
Wag niyo po kaming denegate yung mga 75, 80 kasi nakita niyo naman very sharp pa yung mind ko kasi I keep on reading, palagi ako nagbabasa. And sabi nga nung apo ko, Peter, sabi niya, Moms, why are you reading all the time? You're old already. Sabi ko, oh my God, paano naman ako magpe-prepare sa lecture ko kung hindi ako magbabasa?
Ma'am, maraming salamat po sa oras na naman na binigay ninyo this very, very precious moment. This conversation we're having with you is always, uh, I learn so many new things every time I speak with you, ma'am. This is really a pleasure and an honor and really something that we treasure. I'm sure itong mga ka-3PM namin is really very thankful na nakakausap namin kayo in this manner and we really appreciate it, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much and thank you for inviting me. Please be a participant in our political life and wag kayong magtamad sa May 9 and make your voices known. No? Lalo kayong mga kabataan kasi mga 70% ng 66 million qualified voters ay kayo, mga kabataan.
Ma'am, thank you very much and God bless you and God
Yeah.
keep you.
Ingat din, Peter.
Ingat, ma'am. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
There you have it, the Professor Carlos, and it's always something else whenever we have her dito sa 3 p.m. Pilipinas muna. With how she placed it, mga ka-3 p.m., be part of the humanity. Itong nangyayari sa ating politika ngayon, itong cancel culture, itong differences, itong divisiveness, being created once again by the church. Nakita natin, binigay ni Professor Carlos, nung tinanong ko saan ba nanggaling ang pagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng ideology, pagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng paniniwala, at ang pagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng pagtingin natin sa isa't isa, it was created by the Pope, who gave this part to this country and that part to this country and create the major divisiveness amongst nations. Right now that we are in this millennia, na nakakagulat nga na meron pa rin mga races, no matter the kind of geopolitics the world, the countries created for the sake of each and every country, why can't we just help? Why can't other people help na maging racist? Bakit hindi na lang tayo maging, as Professor Carlos mentioned, be part of the humanity and there is no cost at being kind. We have to be kind to one another, no matter our belief, our political leanings, because I have said this before, pag tayo po may pinapanigan sa politika, hindi po ibig sabihin kalaban natin yung nandoon sa kabilang may pinapanigan din. Because at the end of it all, pagkatapos po ng May 9 election, tayo ay magkakasama pa rin dito sa bansang Pilipinas at pananagutan pa rin natin ang isa't isa. So let us stop fighting each other and let's just vote. Who we want to vote for, is that so impossible? No. Be kind to one another. Attack the candidate because they place themselves in positions na kaatak-atak sila, di ba? Kung aanga-anga ka naman, ba't naman kita pupurihin? Pero let's stop attacking each other. Hindi po yan healthy, not for anyone. Whether you think you're on the right side of the coin or whether you see that that person is on the wrong side of the coin, it doesn't matter. Stand by your principle. Have the integrity, the unquestionable integrity that you are doing what you're doing and are leaning on that side of politics because your integrity tells you to do so, and not because you are being motivated by the kind of earnings you will get from that political leaning you are having. Because we have to just stop. We just have to stop victimizing our country. We need to be united in making this country a great nation. Yun po dapat ang target natin, no matter who we're going to vote for. And please let us stop tolerating dayaan, cheating. Hindi po yan, kagaya ng sinabi ni Professor Carlos, kahit sino manalo, basta hindi ka nanalo sa pandaraya, okay kami. Kasi hindi na talaga tama na magkaroon ng dayaan. Dapat tayo nagre-respetuhan. Dahil, as I always say, iisa lang ang ating bayan na dapat nating alagaan. Kaya bago ang ano pa man, bago ang sarili, Pilipinas muna. People, mga ka-3PM, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3pm.Pilipinas muna, and continue following our Facebook page, 3pm Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Pilipinas muna. Magandang gabi po, and till Monday, we will see you again. Be safe.